Adding a clinical site in Amber is not at all difficult, but you will need a few key pieces of information. You'll need the address to the facility as well as the name and contact information of a key person at the site. There are a couple of other nuances that we'll talk about, but it may be easier to just show you. So let's jump in and add a new clinical site. Access the clinical site area from the coordinator's dashboard. It's right on the main dashboard because we know this is an important area that you will be spending some time in, at least initially when you're setting up your program, as well as later, anytime you want to add a new clinical site. Before we click into the clinical site area, however, notice that there is this lab section. Labs are their own type of clinical site, so you'll set up lab sites later. Currently, we'll focus on adding a traditional site that is not a lab. Once you click into the clinical site area, you'll see a list of your already added clinical sites if you've already added a few. If not, we'll add your first one. Either way, you'll notice these 3 buttons in the top left. The most important one is the Add Clinical Site button, which we'll use in a minute. But notice that you can also add areas. An area is a specific care area and type of care within the clinical site. For example, you may be adding Memorial Hospital as your clinical site. But within Memorial Hospital, you may add areas such as ICU or pediatric general care or post-op. We'll cover adding areas in another video segment, but be aware that adding areas to your clinical site and specifying the type of care that occurs in that area of the site will add a rich layer to your clinical tracking. Co-ARCs will love that you are keeping track of this type of information. It helps to promote a more well-rounded clinical exposure plan for your students. But let's add just a clinical site for now. Hit the button, Add Clinical Site. Once in, you'll add the usual suspects, including the name and the address of the site. You'll also provide any site contact information here. Please pay attention to the time zone. Depending on where you are at, you may have a clinical site in a time zone that is different from your school. Providing an accurate time zone will allow clock in and out records to be accurate. Now, check out this important nuance. You can allow, warn, or restrict students from clocking in or out when they are not within a specified radius of the clinical site. This feature is called geofencing because it's like setting an invisible fence around a clinical site. The default radius is about 1/2 kilometer, which is a little less than 1/2 mile. You can set it as broadly or as tightly as you like. But remember, if students are using their mobile devices, the system depends on their phone's GPS accuracy and location. So we recommend not setting it super tight. The other important setting related to geofencing is how the system responds if a student is outside the zone and wants to clock in or out. If you set it as strict, it will not allow the clock in button to be pressed until they are in the zone. If you use the warning feature, the student is able to clock in outside the zone, but they are warned and their instructors can see a flag on their time record. The coordinator can also view a map and see where the student was geographically from where the student clocked in. Finally, you can simply disable geofencing altogether. It's your choice. We recommend keeping the zone site radius set to at least 1/2 kilometer or 500 meters. And we suggest you initially try using the warn settings. You can experiment. It's your system. Finally, before saving, you can add general notes. And you can add notes specific to parking instructions and security access information related to the facility. Keep in mind, you can always edit any aspect of your clinical site at any later time. Adding a clinical site is important but easy. Don't forget to check out the segment on how to add areas to clinical sites.